Everyone dreams of living an uncommon life, and the best asset you have to achieve your dreams is you. Welcome to the Uncommon Wealth Podcast. We're going to introduce you to people who are living uncommonly. We're also going to give you some tools and strategies for building wealth and for pursuing an uncommon path that is uniquely right for you.
Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of the Uncommon Wealth Podcast, where I'm your host, Phillip Ramsey, and I have an amazing Elle Terhaar today with ReproScan Technologies. I can't wait to get into the show, but before, let me give you the three words that I think of when I think of Elle. Here they are. They're kind of 3.5. Motivated and driven. I'm counting that as one. I usually say driven, but I've already given that to somebody else, so I'm like motivated, but kind of driven. That's more driven. That's totally you, Elle. You're competitive, which I freaking love. Yep. And then you're a visionary. How'd I do? Pretty good?
You rocked it.
Okay. Awesome. Welcome to the show. First, I love your uncommon, and you've been uncommon for like ever. It feels like you came out of the womb. Like you're like looking for like different things that you can start and create. You could be, that could have been a good word for you, a creator, because I feel like you're a creator. But okay, well, first, welcome to the show. First, and then give our listeners a little bit about ReproScan Technologies, just like a 30-second elevator speech.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me. It's kind of fun. I've enjoyed getting to know you. Little bit about ReproScan. So we contract, manufacture, and distribute veterinary ultrasounds around the world, predominantly for the cattle side of things. We do other species as well, but we focus predominantly on the cattle. We have an extension arm. So traditionally, if you've seen veterinarians, they get this really big, long sleeve and they do what's called palpating a cow to find out if she's pregnant. Well, we have a really cool tool so they don't have to do that. So it's easier on the cattle and easier on the vets. They don't have, shoulder issues or elbow issues. So we created an extension arm. So that's kind of our claim to fame. And that's what we do, most of the time.
Yes, that's kind of you started in this whole deal. But let's be honest, this wasn't a company that you started from the ground up. You bought into that. And the story behind that is awesome and fascinating. So I just talk about that because I think it's great how you got here.
Which part? How it started or how I got into it?
Well, okay, give me how it started and then how you got into it.
Okay. So 2 beef veterinarians in Canada are the partners, and they started this because BSE hit and they had to preg check a lot of cattle for export. So they decided there has to be a better way. It's easier on them. Ultrasound had come out, but the technology was different. So they said, hey, let's create something that's easier on us. And it kind of snowballed from there. They said, hey, let's do this. So they ended up creating their own ultrasound brand, and it has grown from there. So it started in 2008 was the official start date. Okay. And then I joined in 2015. And honestly, it's a little bit of a longer story, but honestly, I say they hired me to keep my husband around because my husband had an internship with them, and we had gone to Paraguay with one of the partners, and he had done sales for him. He's a very good salesperson. And I swear they hired me to keep him around, and it kind of just grew from there. So I started as sales and marketing coordinator here in the US. The company was based in Lethbridge, Alberta, and was till we moved everything to Winterset, Iowa in 2018, I believe, is when we kind of reorged, became a partner. And honestly, it was one of those things. I said, hey, I'm going to find a new job, or I want to be an owner. And they threw all their eggs in this basket, and it was amazing. I look at it, I'm like, wow, they were amazing to let me. Yeah. What were they thinking?
Like usually people
early
in
20s.
your positions come up to him and be like, listen, either give me a raise or I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Not Elle. Not Elle.
No,
that's uncommon. Is like, I need some ownership. And actually I need majority ownership if I really can be honest.
I want to run it. Yeah.
Yes.
Not only do I want to be a partner, I want to run it. And it worked out because the company was poised to grow. I had a completely different skill set, and I love to learn, honestly. Like I love to learn, and I love to grow businesses. And somebody said, well, maybe someday you'll be a serial entrepreneur. And I'm like, I kind of like that idea. That sounds like
yes,
fun.
I will. Thank you.
My dad tells the story my parents are uncommon as well. So I'll give you your little shout out there. But my dad tells the story when I was 3, he would ask me what I wanted to be when I would grow up. And he taught me the word entrepreneur. So little Ellie would say, I want to be entrepreneur.
Yes.
And so we laugh because here we are.
I tell my wife, like, if anybody asks me to spell entrepreneur, like, it ain't going to happen. Like, I will never spell that right. So you were kind of younger, just like, I can't say it right. It's good. Okay. So let's talk about, from a young age, you were groomed to be uncommon or an entrepreneur. Tell me,
absolutely.
Yeah. So tell me, that's kind of part of the story and probably why you had so much confidence to walk into the office and say, like, I want to be an owner here.
It was even over a phone call. It wasn't even on the office.
Of course it was.
It was worse.
Of course it was.
Yeah. So little bit about my family is unique. I was born in Florida, moved to Colorado. I say Colorado is home up in the mountains. And when I was 10, my dad got a job opportunity to consult in the Bahamas for, it was supposed to be 18 months. So my parents, they're adventurous. They picked us up and we moved to the Bahamas for now 20 some years. They've been there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So growing up, we moved to an island. It was just our family. You know, you kind of learn, you have a lot of unique experiences living internationally. It was not a developed island. It was a family island. It's becoming developed now, but my dad ran resorts and my mom homeschooled us. And I grew up, this resort that my dad ran is very high end. So I grew up around the CEO of Nike and the guys that created these incredible businesses. And being homeschooled and very much, I don't know, weird Ellie, I loved to go to work with my dad. That was my thing. And he let me. And the company didn't mind.
That's
so
right.
I was able to sit. I filed. I answered phones. I was probably like 12 years old answering phones for my dad.
That's great.
And helping him file. And I was able to listen to these big meetings and big business deals and talk to all these people that, had I not grown up that way, would have been really intimidating. And I realize now, the older I get, I'm like, oh my gosh, hearing these conversations, and these guys didn't say no, they figured it out. My dad was one that, he was a problem solver. They solved the, high end, really beautiful resort, but a third world country, is what he had to work with. So he had to get really creative with the ways that he solved this.
Right.
And I grew up with that. My mom was super adventurous, and they always said, hey, what do you want to do? Let's try it. Hey, let's make a business. Hey, you want to wire wrap jewelry? Let's do it. Let's figure out how to make a business plan. So I was very blessed to have parents that think outside of the box. Yeah, it was unconventional, but it was fun.
Amazing.
We were just talking
what
about
education.
The other night. Yeah.
Talk about like homeschooling. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, people have no idea that we were actually homeschooled, but because my brother and I both have gone on and done, I wouldn't say normal things, but career, not your typical homeschool persona, if you will. But it's been kind of neat. So a lot of that is the uncommon side of how I grew up. And like I said, I just love to learn. I love to travel. I love to problem solve.
And you had support of your parents to be able to nurture that. And then also, like, there's something about parents nurturing that specific thing in children, but it does take a unique individual to continue that. Like, the business plan is great, but then when it gets hard and it gets in the trudges of you actually making these little jewelry things, that's where the rubber meets the road. And a lot of kids are just like tapped out. Not Ellie. She just multiplies it.
Yeah, it was, I don't know. It's just fun. I enjoy learning new industries and, like I said, growing businesses and the intricacies. I had no idea when I took over ReproScan. I'd used QuickBooks a little bit. I inherited QuickBooks with international currencies and dealers all over the place. And I'd never run inventory. And we turned it on one day and I'm like, oh no. Okay. I can't tell you how many 4 a.m.s I went in with a big pot of coffee and I'm like, we're going to Google this.
We're doing this. Here we go.
We figured it out, but a few bumps and bruises along the way.
Okay. So you're 20 years old. You walk in, I want ownership.
Not quite 20, mid-20s.
Let's 25-ish, whatever. And you walk in and you say, I want ownership. And they were like, sure. Like, how did that conversation go?
We have amazing partners in this company, and they both were like, Okay. It's kind of me and my husband. My husband's also a
Yeah.
big part of this, even though this isn't what he does. They believed in us. We had a vision. We kind of had thought things through. They helped us, and it was very mutually beneficial. They were a little bit older, saying, "Hey, I don't want to run the true day to day," and I said, "Hey, I want to grow this thing, but let's grow ReproScan."
Right.
We were 2 full-time employees at that point. Now we're 7.
Right. Kudos for them to think like, okay, if I have a little bit less of ownership, but I have somebody to drive it, like that little bit less could be more than what I have now.
Oh,
good for them.
And they, I was like, "Ooh, I need to find an Ellie." They figured this out. Like,
yes,
you take a step back, find an Ellie, and there you go. But I tell everybody, they gave me a really long leash. Like, they truly believed in me. They gave us the support, gave me the support, and they spent that first year. I had lots of phone calls, and I was like, well, I'm either going to hang myself on this leash or we're going to do well. And so far, like I said, a few bumps and bruises, but it's been a great road.
Wow. That's such a lesson, isn't it? It's just like believing in somebody enough to let them fail. And then also like being there for them when it gets rocky. Okay, that's all right. Like we'll bounce back, but giving them the reins versus I think there's times where somebody's like, okay, you can have ownership, and every decision they make, they just like berate them and tell them how bad that decision is. That won't ever work. Or like, hey, how about you just step back into owning this company? Because like, if you're going to let me do these things, what's the point, right?
And they weren't afraid of change, that was a huge lesson for me. And as I've hired people, it's been really a good reminder for me. Yes, I have a vision of what I want ReproScan to look like and what the branding looks like, but I want to hire people who are good at what they do. And I'm okay if they come with unique ideas. Sometimes I tell them, hey, I need to put a pin in it and think about it because it's so different than what I'd ever thought about.
Right.
But I had people who said, oh, okay, let's try it. So I want to continue that culture. And I've tried. I'm guessing my staff would say, not always perfect at that, but I do try.
Yeah, that's amazing. So now you're 25, you're stepping into this thing. How did the ownership of, I mean, obviously you don't have that much money at 25. Like, how do you step into that?
We were very blessed to be able to take out a loan, and actually they did some owner financing, which was major.
Right. Okay.
And we were able to make it profitable enough and over time to pay it off, which was a blessing.
Right.
So that has been huge. But they not only believed in us, but we did take out a loan, but they owner financed a lot of it.
Wow. Okay. So now where are we at today? How many employees do you have?
We have 7 full-time and then some independent contractors as well.
Wow. Okay. So it seems like the partners that you bought into have to be extremely happy with where it's going. Or
they are elated.
Where it's going. Okay.
They are thrilled. In fact, we haven't seen each other since 2019 was the last time we were all together. So they're both in Canada. So we're going to take a trip here in a couple of weeks and go do a big partner meeting and see the lake house we built them.
Yeah. Good on
you. No, it's going to be good. It's a very good partnership. And it's a lot of fun when we do get to we're working on some research and development stuff. So we've talked a little bit more in the last couple of weeks than we have in ages. And it's been kind of fun to reconnect a little bit and see they have other businesses and things they're working on too. So it's neat to hear what else is going on.
For sure. Let's talk about the dynamics between your husband and you running a company. How has that been throughout the whole shindig?
So he works full-time in the industry as well. So he has a very full-time big corporate job. So he has plenty on his plate.
So he doesn't work for ReproScan?
No, not at all. Nope. I borrow he's bilingual. I borrow his language skills occasionally. And then like nights and weekends, if I've got stuff going, he'll help. Wow. But honestly, he doesn't technically do anything on the day-to-day.
You just use his like bilingual skills and then his knowledge on the industry to be able to kind of like.
Yeah, we bounce ideas because we both love this, but we bounce ideas off of each other. And it's a very symbiotic relationship. So we're going to a lot of the same conferences and we have a lot of the same clients. So, there's things that he pulls me in on his side, and like ReproScan can open some doors into some certain places for him and grow their business and vice versa. So it works
Very
really
cool.
well.
Yeah.
But technically, I mean, he does his thing and I do mine. We talk a lot about it, but there's not the day-to-day per se. I mean, there's times where, hey, Box has got to go out. He gets home after work and, hey, when we were growing, like, honey, I need
got to get boxes out. Yeah. Let's go. You're working your second job, buddy. Okay.
Exactly. Second, third, fourth, whatever you want to call it.
So you started out with ultrascans, and then how did it evolve from there? Because I think, what is it? ReproScan Technologies. So it's not just ReproScan ultrasounds.
That's funny that you pick up on that. So when we rebranded and moved the whole company here and restructured the partnership, instead of calling it ReproScan Ultrasounds, I wanted to call it ReproScan Technologies because I don't know where we're going. We have a really niche. We have a sales force. We have the ability to quality control. We have the ability to do supply chain and source and ship and receive. Like, we can do all that. And so if the technology changes, I want to be able to adapt quickly or find what's that next product that fits this ag niche market. Is it bull testers? Is it, I don't know, fill in whatever the next thing is as this grows. So that was something we talked a lot about is, okay, ReproScan, yep, we're scanners, we're ultrasounds, but what could be next? We have a great customer database. We have a great customer relations. Where do we grow next? So that's the opportunity. We've grown within the ultrasound line. We haven't added any other technologies at the moment because we're so busy with ultrasounds, but we've grown into other species at the moment. We haven't grown into other technologies, if you will, but it's there if we want to grow. Is kind of how we left that. So it's interesting that you picked up on that.
Oh yeah, I did, Ellie. Okay, so if you had like your vision for ReproScan Technologies, where would you see this in 10 years? Let's just say.
Oh, I love what we do, Phillip. We have the best customers, like truly. We get to go across, I'll just say in the US even, we get to go across the US and serve good, hardworking, just amazing people. I mean, you have a few bad eggs, but for the most part, we have amazing customers. So I want to continue to serve that customer base. On the actual ultrasound side of things, I want to be the household name. When people want durable ultrasounds that work. If they want the high-end, really expensive, fancy stuff that you're going to do on your small animal in downtown Des Moines, that's not me.
Yep.
I want to be the rough and tough, out in the field, great customer service. Hey, we'll get it taken care of. I want to own that world. We're getting there. When we first started, people would be like, ReproScan? Never heard of you. Now it's like, oh, you work for ReproScan.
Wow.
It's kind of fun.
That's an honor.
It's really neat. There's still sectors that don't know us. We predominantly are in the large animal beef side of things, not as much in the dairy. So I want to grow into that, but I want to keep our customer base. I want to have an amazing team. Right now we have an amazing team. I don't know if that means we're going to grow our team, but I want to keep that and continue to have fun with it. We were chatting a little bit before the podcast, like we're finally to the point where this is really enjoyable for the most part.
Wow.
We work hard. We work long hours during season, but we've got the right team in place. So let's see what this team can do and be open to opportunities, but it's not, I don't want to say that it's not stressful because any business is in its own way.
Right.
But it's not like it was in 2018. We bought a farm, built a house, bought ReproScan. It was really stressful at that point.
Right. And you had just had a baby. So this just happened. You've had a baby.
Yes, little baby at home. So that changes perspective.
Right. It does.
When we started, Phillip and I got to meet through a class, and I started the class, I think I was 4 weeks postpartum.
Yeah.
5 maybe. She was brand new.
Baby. Yep.
Itty bitty baby.
Yeah.
So
Ellie had to leave to go pump. That's how raw it was. Like,
it was fresh. She was little. But she's growing, and it kind of changes perspective. So it's, can we run this to where there's still a little bit, I would say work-life balance, but we have other things going too. So it's ReproScan and other life balance, if you will, which is the fun of it. I hope and pray that we can have our daughter grow up seeing that, hey, there's possibilities. You want to do something? Let's try it. My parents believed in me. My husband's parents believed in him. His grandparents believed in us. Like, let's try it.
Wow. So cool. So, what a good lesson.
It's neat.
Here's my question for you. What leadership lesson have you learned owning a company? Like what do you think the biggest leadership lesson you've learned leading and owning your own company?
That is a big question. There are so many of them.
I feel like it's a constant thing for me.
It is.
And there's some days I'm like, I don't want to learn anymore. Like burn it to the ground.
Or there's like, ooh, that 2x4 to the face hurt. Yeah.
That's exactly right.
I would say staying humble, even when things are going well, and being open to ideas. Sometimes I can catch myself, like, I have a vision. I have like a relatively strong drive to get where we're going. And I tend to push a little bit hard. So sometimes it's like, you know what? Take a breath and listen. Like, don't talk over people. Listen. Ask the questions, when you're sitting around lunch table with everybody. Hey, what are your thoughts? Not just like in your specific roles, if you're warehouse or marketing or logistic, whatever it is, or sales. Hey, what do you think about ReproScan? Where should we go next? Like, I'm not always the best at that, but that has been a lesson consistently that, they had some good ideas. Okay. It doesn't matter who you are and what position you have. Everybody has, they want ownership in it, not necessarily like to be the owner, because settling up with that is a lot. 8 to 4 is pretty good. You pay well at 8 to 4 and you have a pretty good life. But if they feel like they're part of the owners of things, I really realized it. There was one specific moment that I walked in. We had our shipping receiving kind of warehouse gal, and I like things very neat and tidy. Shocker. And I had a very strong opinion of how things needed to be in the warehouse. And I realized it just wasn't working. And one day I took her out there and I said, you know what? This is your space. Make it work. Keep it clean, but make it work for what you're doing, because you're the one ultimately doing this. And from there on out, it was so much better. We didn't have the issues. She did an amazing job. It worked I didn't register that I'm tall. She was not. So the way things were set up didn't function. Yeah. And that one stuck with me. Like, yeah, Ellie, you idiot. I should have paid attention to that.
The old 2x4 to the head.
Yes. So little things like that. I guess I sort of answered in a roundabout way.
No, that's a really good answer. And I think that what you just said is like our huge attributes, our biggest gifts can also be like our biggest failure, or like worst gifts too.
Achilles heel.
They can turn, like that motivation and driven, like that driven can, like, you can have a wake of bodies behind you, and so you have to kind of corral that to be like, okay, maybe I can't go as fast with many people, but I don't want to do this alone.
Right.
And so I think that's really interesting, thinking about those characteristics, even of yourself, like myself, of like my biggest attributes can also be my biggest weakness. And, when does that turn that way? And my hesitancy. And anyway, so it's good. Okay. So Ellie, if our listeners wanted to hear more about ReproScan or you, how do they get a hold of you or ReproScan?
Obviously all our stuff's on the website. So repro-scan.com is the website. Kind of fun. Even if you're not ag, it's a totally different thing to learn. Welcome to shoot me an email. It's simple. LEELLE at repro-scan.com. I love to learn, love to hear more. But yeah, reach out. You're welcome to share my contact info, because I love to learn about the different parts of this world. And there's all sorts of industries and people that I've never learned about. It's awesome. So thank you.
That's good. Yeah. So you've been listening to the Uncommon Wealth Podcast. I've been your host, Phillip Ramsey. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, stay uncommon.
That's all for this episode, brought to you by Uncommon Wealth Partners. Be sure to visit uncommonwealth.com to learn more about our services. Don't miss an episode as we introduce you to inspiring people who are actively pursuing an uncommon life.